everyone. Welcome to our webinar. We're so excited to have you here. It's going to take just a minute to get everybody in, so we'll give everyone just a minute. We're going to be talking about presentations today, which is something I think is a huge pain point for most of us out there. But really excited to have Kevin here, who's an amazing technology facilitator out in Arkansas, and we're going to get started just at 6:01 our time here in New York City. And like I said, if you're here before, please say hello in the chat, where you're from, what you do. That would be amazing. Let's see who gets in there first. We've got from Greece, amazing. Hi, Julie. Love Greece. Greek salad is like one of my favorite things in the whole world. We've got China. Dana, we love you, Dana. Dana's part of our Women in Education group. We also have Amanda, who introduced from our team, who introduced us to Kevin. So Arkansas, strong. Hawaii. Hi, Brian. Amazing. So we've got France. We already see like our lovely global audience. So we're going to get started. As if you've been here before, it's your first time, we're really happy to have you here. I'm Amanda Bickerstaff. I'm the CEO and co-founder of AI for Education. We have been doing this work now for about 8 months of webinars. We started back in June, and we have seen over and over again how important slide generation is to teachers' lives. Like, we are tasked and asked to create slides as if we were presenting to, the biggest corporate boardroom literally every day, sometimes up to 5 times of a different type of PowerPoint or slide generation. So we know that this is a really big pain point. And so we're here today to talk about how to do that with generative AI tools, only free. We will be focusing on Canva Magic and then some freemium tools. And we're just very excited. So if this is your first time or forever, we love that you've already gotten involved and said hello in the chat. But first, get involved. We are so lucky to have so much of a great community that comes to these webinars. You know sometimes more than we do on the topic. So if you have a great resource or tool, please share. We will, if you have a question specifically for myself or for Kevin, please put that in the Q&A and not in the chat, because as you can see, like sometimes it can go pretty quickly. And like I said, just share resources. If you have a great approach, if you've made a great slide deck that you want to share, please do that. And so I'm going to come off share just for a moment because I want to give Kevin the spotlight. And so really excited to have Kevin here. Kevin is an educator, a tech facilitator, an enthusiast. He's someone that if you're in the same boat that came to generative AI and said, what can I do with this? And is learning all the time. And so I'd love you to introduce yourself and always ask this question. What was your first prompt that you ever did?
So yeah, I have just been loving this since 2022, right? I mean, it's been a beautiful thing. I I probably asked it to tell me a joke first. But then the other thing I did is I was doing I asked it to make a description of something like thermonuclear dynamics or something. Then I asked it to write a song about it in the key of C. And then I asked it to do a Will Smith rap about it, and just because I wanted to see what kind of lyrical style. But I've been enjoying the this change. It's so cool to be a part of almost a whole new epic of educational history.
And do you want to talk a little bit about what you do at Harrison?
Absolutely. I run our 7th through 12th grade ed tech program. I administer a thing called Canvas. It's our learning management system, and I get to spend my time playing around with technology and then teaching teachers. And my favorite thing to do right now is I've developed some what is AI, so I can talk to the kids in the classroom, so that we can start having kids become leaders in using this tool that they're going to encounter, and instead of having that fear of, well, what are they going to do with it? No, let's get them excited and really help them energize them towards a better future.
Which is amazing. I'm just going to make one little note to everybody. We have a couple of note takers in the room. And so we usually suggest that we always ask permission. So we are going to probably, we're going to probably ask you to take out your note takers. Also, Margaret, as a question for you, Kevin, are you a real person or are you
I am
generative?
a real person. Hold up, but let me see if I can turn off my there.
You
This
see,
is
he's real. It's
This is,
he's not a fake he's
these
not a
are, yeah,
Elephant Labs or Sora or anything
that's right.
generated. Well,
Yeah,
we're super
I'm
excited.
Gemini Ultra Pro Pro.
Exactly. So we want to start the conversation with some best practices of like thinking about slide generation and how you can start to use generative AI. And so you may have tried some of the free tools, you may already be a Canva Magic enthusiast, but what we want to talk about is kind of what these best practices are. And the first thing is that you should be thinking about like these generative tools like Magic on Canva are really about the visual and structural aspects, but that the content itself needs to really be driven by your expertise, your pedagogical content knowledge, your PCK, and your knowledge of your students. And so while this is a really great opportunity and we're going to show you Magic, it cannot replace, you can't just create this beautiful slide deck without you still being the center of this and the expert in your domain. And so we are going to show you ways to use, and Kevin was talking about app smashing. We're going to use a couple of tools like ChatGPT as well as Canva Magic to get to some of that content. So you're not feeling as like under the pump, but we still want you to always remember to be the expert in this piece. The second, of course, is that we know that generative AI is brand new and it has some major issues, whether that is hallucinations or knowledge cutoffs, where it can make up things that are not correct. But also, if you saw the Gemini kerfuffle, it's my word kerfuffle, but where Gemini had an image generator, and by trying to fine tune it to be less, biased, it became more biased, and they actually had to take it off the market. So if you're using this for generative, for actual development of images, especially images of people, you want to be very careful that that is not replicating and or exacerbating existing bias in these models. So we always want you to fact check. The second thing is to provide structure and edit. Like you need to be, it's really interesting. We're going to show you how to prompt the conversational chatbot, but then we're also going to show you how you'd have to be a little bit different with Canva Magic. So you're going to need to have clear prompts and outlines that can produce more relevant content. And then the idea is to edit and revise in your own voice. Your students, this is such a good opportunity to have your students really get to know you more too, because you're going to be saving that time. And the last thing is there are all kinds of tools and they are getting better. You have specific tools just for creating slides like Gamma, and you have tools that are just for thinking about education, technology, and are starting to build better slide decks. And so all of those things are going to be great, but we're really going to focus today because of our focus on equity on the free tools. So if you are an educator, you will have access to Canva, which has the Canva Magic piece. And we'll also be looking at ChatGPT, the free model, as well as maybe a little bit of Perplexity. We might throw that in to get some resources. But I'm going to hand this over now to our Kevin, who's going to take us through Canva Magic, give us some information about what it does and what it doesn't do, and then we're going to do some live work, and we hope that you prompt with us.
All right, I am having trouble sharing my screen.
Oh, we might have to make you, hold on, let's make you a co-presenter, and then we should be able to do that. Hold on. You are now co-host, and you should be able to share your screen.
Fantastic. All right, so Canva Magic Studio. Whoa, it's magic. It's a really great piece. It saves you tons of time. And in the presentation world, it's going to give you so many good ideas. Just like generative AI gives you great starting places, that's what we're going to do with Canva Magic Studio. Now, we're going to be working specifically with the Design Studio for presentations, but as we do our live demo, you're going to see all the pieces of Magic Studio together. One of the cool things that saves educators time on Canva is all of the stuff minus the extra content is already inside. It's baked inside. I can generate an AI image right in Canva. I have a whole bunch of elements that are free for me to use in the educator version right in Canva. I can easy theme changing. So there's so much magic available that it just makes our job a lot easier. And then we can take all that saved time and do so much more with our students with it. And so that's amazing to me. Now, what are some limitations? I wish I could tell you that you can say, give me a good presentation, and Canva says, ta-da. but it kind of says ta, and instead of the da is up to you. So it's designed to be a starting block. Sometimes it gives really good information. I've prompted it like, I don't know, 50, 60 times with different stuff to try to test how long should the prompt be? How short can the prompt be? I figured out that the prompt can only be 30 words. If you try to go beyond 30 words, it doesn't do a good job. Also, if you try to cram a lot of stuff in there, it tries really hard to please you, but ends up being a child that has like 9 different things, all of which are not really uniformly related. Um, and Canva tries to do something. It tries to take one of its educational templates and it tries to fit what you've asked it to generate onto that template. So sometimes if the template had like someone's name and number, it will hallucinate Jim Don 555121234 and we just got to be a good shopper right there and shop for the stuff we want and then delete the stuff we do not want. All right. And once again, talking about this is going to save us time, but what are we going to do with that time, right? It reminds me of a story way back in the day when all of a sudden Google Forms could automatically grade multiple choice questions. First of all, I did a happy dance. Secondly, what I did is I said, hold up, I'm not grading 900 papers. What can I do? And our department was struggling with what's our purpose, what's our voice. So what we did is said, hey, let's help English teachers, because I was a social studies teacher. That's what I did for 20 years, is taught social studies. And so I was able to incorporate more writing for my students because I was able to save so much time. So that's something I hope to leave you with today is whatever time you save, besides going, all right, presentation done, we can say, hey, how can I reinvest this time to make my students' learning experience even better? Like create more learning and targeted presentations, create bespoke images, real world examples, and differentiate the slides for different audiences.
That's great. And I'll just jump into Kevin, just really quickly before we go on to if you don't mind going back up. I think that, what we see a lot is that this idea of what we see happen is that you're like, okay, I can do what I always do. And I could do it with AI, I could do it faster. And so what we always suggest, and if you've been into our webinars or some of our in-person events, is that the idea of like, where would you commonly want to get to? And then now take 10 steps forward. And so what are the things you wish you could have done or that will engage your students, or even maybe experiment and like go a little bit wild? And so, one of the things I think is really exciting is that something like a Canva Magic or other tools is that you're going to be able to build not just good, but better. And I think our ultimate goal is like, we do want school to be better for students and teachers. And so if we can save you 2 to 3 hours of time, doesn't mean necessarily some of that time you just need to get back. We know that if you're an educator, you are under the pump all the time. So we're not saying necessarily it's got to be a one-to-one, but what now can we do to actually extend that ability to engage students? Because let's be honest, we've all been part of a presentation that has been a little bit boring or a lot of bit boring, that has been there for like, who's been to seen one that's been 15 years, the same PowerPoint, the same,
Preach.
the sans serif or, the Times New Roman, and it's got only text. Like, this is an opportunity to actually think about like, how do I update and create that? And what's really cool is that we did a session last week in a district, and what I showed them something we'll look at later, which is called Ideogram, which is an image generator. And the first thing one of the teachers said was, I want to go back to all my presentations and just make them more fun. And like his engagement in that moment, I think, is what we want you all to experience. And hopefully you find some creativity, some spark here as well, because there's so many cool things that you can do.
Absolutely. All right, so we are going to get into some demonstrations. So I really love the AI for Education's prompt library. In preparing for this, I saw how many cool things there are there. So I've used an already excellent existing prompt for creating Google Slides, and I'm going to switch my share so that I can share my web browser to get into this presentation. Just give me one moment.
And we're going to share, so everyone, so we did a massive, massive update to our prompt library, which is really exciting. So if you saw yesterday, we did a full update of our 100 prompts. And so they're all been updated with research and best practice. And we actually changed the slide one to say not slides, but slide content for this reason, because I think people thought you just go magic. And what we had to do is actually like using a chat bot like ChatGPT or Claude, like you can use our prompt to actually get the content that you put into the slides, which is really great. So I think we have our slide prompt, which I'll share, but you have an example which I'll put into the chat as well, so everyone can follow along if you want to do this live, because we love it when you live
Yes.
prompt engineer.
Yes. Let me just grab that from the chat.
Perfect.
And I'll do it live here when I see it come down.
Great. So you're going to drop that into chat and then I'll put the prompt library. Okay, everyone. So we're going to chop that in, and then here's our slide.
All right. I will make this a brand new chat right here. All right. So we're using well, I don't have having a favorite movie and a favorite chat bot are the same for me. Besides Dune is my favorite movie. My favorite chat bot varies. And I'm just been a fan of GPT for so long. It's like GPT talking about you and me. So we're just using GPT. Why are we doing this? We're doing this for a baseline because when we get our 7 slides from Canva's Magic, they might have some great stuff and they might have some stuff that's missing. And this is going to give me an opportunity to use Magic Write to be able to make a slide on the spot and then just have Magic write it for me. And that's what we're gonna discover. All right. And Amanda, you're seeing what I'm sharing, right?
Yes, I am. You might want to make it slightly, if you can make it a little bit bigger so people can see the
Oh,
resolution,
I
that would be awesome.
apologize. How's that?
Perfect. Amazing.
Okay. So, and now we're going to go to Canva. If you haven't signed up for Canva yet, Canva has a free for educators piece, and it's also free for all schools. If your school hasn't signed up to become Canva Magic, I would recommend highly that they do that. It's a free process, and you'll also be able to do a single sign-on. So shout out to Canva. All right, so I'm just going to click education presentation. Now I have my GPT right here, and I'm going to be coming back to this to kind of give me a baseline. Now, I wish I could tell you I'm a geologist. I am not a geologist, but we're gonna work it out. Okay, so I'm going to create a blank presentation, and let's see here. You can see that we are going to
It's a little bit
redo.
slow, Kevin, so we just see a blank page right now. You might want to
Oh, I have to go back. I apologize. Thank you.
You're
All right.
good.
You can see that instead of putting in the prompt this large piece, we are going to reduce it to specific subject we're going to present and the grade we're going to present it to. So when I do this, you'll see me do plate tectonics for 6th grade. All right, now I'm going to switch back. All right, so when I click up here, you can see it already said education presentation. You can leave that in there. I think that helps it. I put plate tectonics for 6th grade. And if I just press the enter key here, I'm going to see if I can zoom in because you're probably having a hard time seeing that.
There you go. That's much
Is that a
better.
little better?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I want to draw your attention to a couple of things. Thing one, here is the magic design. These two, plus if I click see all right here, I'm going to see 6 more. All right. Those are the Canva's educational platform templates into whatever we put in for its AI to chew on. Okay. Now, I want you to notice, and I chose plate tectonics for this, there are some EDU presentations already made. And this one is a wonderful presentation on plate tectonics. So we could just say, hey, we done, Right. And that's it. We're not going to say that. But I mean, it's a pretty great presentation on plate tectonics, but that's not why we're here. But one thing I would like you to think about as you're creating is did Canva's keyword search in all of its presentations, did it find something that you really like? Because that's usually how I approach Canva, is I go, hey, I like that. How can I improve it? And then add my own spin to it. Today, we're going to focus on this magic design piece. So we're going to click see all. And what we're going to see is we are going to see the 6 different presentations that it's made on plate tectonics. And all 6 of these have a little different template. So some of them, like you're seeing it cycle through this one, for example, has true false questions. So here's what I can do. Thing 1, I can click apply all 7 pages, and it just replaces what I had with this presentation. All right. And then I can go slide by slide to say, okay, is this what I was looking for? Did I want key points about the presentation? And then this is a question and answer piece. So I can say, you know what, that's really not what I'm looking for. Okay, I can go back here and I can go, okay, let's view another one. So the next thing I do is I spend some time going through these templates to see which one wins for me. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't use pieces of all of them, but as you can see, they are designed quite differently. So, but that's the great thing about Canva, right? I can go here and I can choose a different background color, and I can choose a different graphic and have a totally different feel for that presentation. So, let me go back. There we go. You can see that this one has this text might be a little too small. I might want to look at that. So the first thing that I do when I am shopping for my presentation is to see which one has my mojo, and to figure out, like, okay, this is definitely, because when I look at this presentation, I start to think about earthquake sirens and seismographs. It's very like 1970s, let's get a manila folder and solve some science kind of a thing. And so this is the one that I'm going to say, you know what? I can work with this. Ooh, tectonic tails. Way to go, AI. You've impressed me with tectonic tails. So maybe this will be our winner. Okay, now what's next? Well, what's next is we need to go and say, okay, this has some facts about tectonics. It's got some types of boundaries, but it doesn't say anything about types of boundaries, because the next slide, you can tell, is almost every one of these slides is an intro to a presentation, right? So this is where your sweat equity is going to come in, is you're going to say, okay, I really want, this was important to me, types of plate boundaries. So I'm going to copy this slide because I really like this slide. And I'm going to, oops. I'm gonna take this and I'm going to, oh, okay, I'm gonna, apparently not, types of plate boundaries. You know, spelling boundaries live is super great.
I will say that I didn't realize that I would be typing so much in front of people with this work. Like, I feel
Yes.
like I'm being judged on my typing and spelling ability almost daily now.
Okay, so now I have this types of plate boundaries, and so I'm going to start to deconstruct this because I really like this piece. But now I want to be able to expand because I want to know about different types of plate boundaries. So I click Magic Write and I say continue writing. Now notice I have summarize, make it smaller. I have rewrite. I have more fun. My favorite part is not more formal. It is sprinkle fairy dust, because when you sprinkle fairy dust, Canva's imagination takes over. So we're gonna say continue writing, because what that's gonna do for us is create plate boundaries. Now, whoa, this was wonderful, right? But too much. So I'm gonna select this text, and I'm going to, oh, now I have to click it. I have to click the box again. And I'm gonna say, you know what? That was too much. How about a summary of this? That's much better. That's what I was looking for. And so now we just do some improvements. Okay.
And this might be also, so Magic Write like will give you this something like this. So of course we want you to double check, but you could also like based on this, you can then have it be like extended through ChatGPT or Claude or another thing. But you can see how what Kevin's done is like it's not saying that we're going to build you could build a PowerPoint in like a minute, right? But instead of this, what we're doing is now we're creating something that's like really high value. We're still going to be able to do this in under, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And as you get better at these tools, it'll become even easier to do so. But what we can start to do is start to like identify these areas in which you can speed up the process and then
Yes.
create something that you feel like will be more appropriate for your classroom.
Absolutely. And basically, if we just rinsed and repeated, right? If we went back to ChatGPT and said, okay, hey, there's our plate boundaries. Fantastic. Oh, wait, here's divergent boundaries and convergent boundaries. Oh, do I need to go back and do some more with that or not? And then, uh-oh, transform boundaries. Batman, I don't think transform boundaries. Oh, they were. They're right there. So I'm double checking my work. Now, there's here's another one. I would like to see plate tectonics natural. Now, could I copy and paste from ChatGPT right here too? Yes, that's another option, right? I could have just copied and pasted right here. I wanted to demonstrate the use of Magic right here so that you could be able to expand your ideas that way. Now, we could also go to Magic Media. Let's say we want to see, okay, thank you, Google, not continental drift. Let's, so if you haven't ever used this tool, this is Canva's AI image generator, all right? And so we're gonna generate this. Now, I can't wait to see Amanda's image generator. She talked about it, but I didn't get to play a lot with it. Um, my students in a literature class, they have to present a novel. Ooh, I do love that. So I'm actually going to I would make a new slide here because I want to highlight that image. So let me see if I have a good, I kind of I treat this presentation as like colors on a palette. And I go, hey, I like this, this, and this. This helped me create a cohesive design without me having to go, oh man, what am I going to do? And now I'll take one of my folders. Oh, that one would be great. All right, I'm going to duplicate this page. And I'm going to add this drift piece right in here. And then I'm going to oh, you know what? This was already about shifting continents, so that's great. Um, if we're keeping score at home, I still have to readjust the placement of these slides. But what I wanted to do here is just to show you a couple of the ways that you can really reduce the time that it's going to take you to create. Now we could keep rinsing and repeating, but I think right here we've reached the extent that the last thing I want to show you is you can go back to the well. All right. So we're going to go back up to design. And design is where right here in the design slide, this is where all their this is where that magic design lives. So if I wanted to, and I wanted to just talk about continental drift, we'll just use that as our example. I could just, oh, continental drift. geography.
So Ayana asked a question. Could you build infographics? So yeah, so on Canva, they also have infographics that you can do the
Yes.
templates and then also build the content for it through Magic AI, build some of the images. Um,
Yes.
for the animations, like there are like that's something that I think is in a work in progress, right? Like Kevin, so you'll have to
Yeah.
add those, James. But like again, you can add those back in. Absolutely.
Yeah. And uh here's I was gonna try. Let me go back to GPT. Oh, that's what I wanted. Plate tectonics and natural disasters. We can let me do one more thing here. Excellent. All right, so the mistake I made about 45 times when playing with this um, is I wanted to go back to the well to kind of see some more AI designed slides, and I wanted to go AI design slides within AI design slides, so the only thing I'm going to tell you about is if you do that, don't click this button. Because if you click this button, it's gonna erase all of the work that you've done. Or okay, the work that you've done. It's gonna erase what you've currently done. So if you do want some of these pieces, click the plus button, and it'll ask if you want to add a new page or replace current. Now, and now I have that, and I can shift it. I'm going to have to make it right. You saw that it created a different theme, right? It did not play nice and say, I wish, but that's a wish list for me, is that when we're doing this, that it would be like, hey, there's a theme going on. I'm going to switch to that. No, no, you're the theme. So I would take this. I think if I make that happy orange, yeah, that's going to be a little better. And if I made the, yeah. So I wanted to show you that you can still go back and get more specific and redesign. I don't know how much that would necessarily save you when Magic Design can do a lot of writing, and then when you can go back to Chat GPT or your AI of choice to be able to write that. But that is the basics of this Magic Design.
Yeah, and so like let's just like highlight a couple things. So just as to kind of a recap. And so what you can do is one of two things. You can use the entire Magic Design to build your whole 7-part you know, template, which is going to have that information. You can vibe or kind of remix an existing example, which you can then change and update. And what you can do also is you can kind of create your brand new one as well, and then use the things like Magic Write and Magic Image and Magic Video to be able to create it bespoke for you as you go. So there really is kind of like an endless possibility here in terms of what's your best flow. And I think that this is a part of like getting like comfortable and starting to understand like what are your like things that you do really well. So maybe you want to write everything because you are such a good targeted writer, but what you are terrible at is creating bespoke branded slides. So I will talk about that for myself. We have a very nice branding that like Dan on our team has done a beautiful job, but essentially it's all come from Canva where we picked it. And then we don't really use the magic pieces for the content, but we do use it for building images. So Amanda DePriest and I team does a great job of building like the images that we saw earlier. All of our robots are built with a image generator. And so what we do is we infuse this idea of generative AI as much as possible of what we need. But you might be the opposite, where you're so good at design, but it's sometimes hard to create content that's really engaging for your students. And so that's what we really like to get into. So actually, Kevin, if you can give that back to me, I'm going to show everyone 2 other tools that might help you with this. And so Susan and others, like you can use Copilot. If you have Copilot from the school, like if your school has Copilot licenses, they do have an extension within Drive, within Microsoft 365, including PowerPoints. It's like, okay, not great, but it absolutely is a start. I would say that right now we always have to remember that generative AI is the worst it's ever going to be. It's still very new. When Kevin was showing you that it doesn't change the template automatically, I would bet that's coming in the next couple months that eventually you'll be able to do that. And so for, Joe, just another point, Joy asked about fact checking content. We always want you to fact check content. So please do that. But one of the ways that you can potentially do this and actually drive something that is like really important is you can start to use exactly. Lauren already knows. Lauren's we already got it. So we're going to use Perplexity, which is just perplexity.com, which is something called. So what we were just looking at is like an AI plus generative media and writing tool. What we're going to look at right now is actually like something called generative search. And generative search is combining the amazing components of, like Google and your ability to search well with generative action. So I can only see, we're in front of my bar. So there we go. So this is Perplexity. And we can drop this into the channel. It's just perplexity.ai. If you haven't used it, get ready to have some really awesome pieces. So it's free, absolutely. And so here we go. We have where your knowledge begins. And so what I can do is I can say, what are the most important misconceptions about plate tectonics? And we know that misconceptions, science teacher, let's do this. And so what I'm going to do is I could just put that into Google, right? And what I would get is a whole bunch of resources. But what I get now is, here we go. It's given me both the resources, including some videos, images, and other pieces. But what it's done is it's written me also the content. So the most important misconceptions about plate tectonics include the belief that only continents move, that misconception that divergent ocean ridges are due to vertical uplift or convergence rather than divergence, and the idea that present oceans only began as Pangea broke apart. Oh, those are really interesting ones, right? And so what we can do though is like, I might be not super sure about that. So now I can actually go and double check my resources. And so that's a way you can do this. And so here we see this is really great in terms of this. We have some other options here, like easier to address, earth science misconceptions, perfect. And what I can do is I can double check this. But what's really awesome is that now I can also look for images. And so maybe there's if you're talking about Pangea or the way that's moved, you can look at that. You've got your things like ridges, you've got videos too. There might be a great video on plate tectonics that you might want to use. And this is still a pretty new tool. So it's being developed as well. So it's not going to be as robust as Google. So if you expect it to have the whole Google approach, it won't have that. But it's a really great way to start your research and to start getting these great ideas instead of having to do the old way where you would have to go and open every single, you put in a search term, you'd have to open every piece and then come back to it. So we love this as a tool. And what you can do again is follow up is what are the most important facts that students in grade 6 should know about plate tectonics. And this is where, to someone asked earlier about the idea of can you connect it to a curriculum, you can now ask it for the UK curriculum or the NGSS. But here you can do is that they understand these conceptions, and then you can even say, now format this in bullets. And so I can do this. And now look at this. I have something that can be vetted, of course, always with those double checking, but I can also add it as bullets. I can rewrite it. I can share it, etc. So another example of like pulling everything together that is going to hypercharge your ability to create really good slides. So the next one I'm going to show you is to Ideogram. And so this is my favorite thing lately. And I'll show you guys a couple images that we've done live because they're hysterical. And so I always like to do this. So we've got from last week, we've got shout out to some of the schools I was in districts last week. So we have everything from, I used it for our Women's Day post. This is Leonia, which is a district we were at Monday. This is a cat dancing, but this is my favorite. There's a copyright issue here, everyone. So this one was against copyright. Ideogram does not have good copyright protections, but it is Batman eating veal Parmesan, because that's how you eat veal Parmesan in front of a fire. And so we get a little bit wild, but we also did things like we were able to create an image for they're having an Annie production. It said Tuckahoe. We've got kind of fun things where we love this idea of like a creative writing prompt. So we have squirrels on squirrels on the moon, hanging out in a playground. And so these are really cool examples of where you can start to, in this case, their school was tigers. And so we're looking at maybe we could create something that's like for a younger class, we can have tigers be supportive of language learning, in this case, the ABCs. And so it's going to be not perfect, but you can see how you can start to create some bespoke images that you can do in Canva. But the nice thing about this is that you can start to get a more fine-tuned approach. So you get 25 prompts, that's 4 images per. So you have 100 free images a day, which is pretty amazing. You can pick the ratio, like you can have it be, ours are public, but you can do photo, illustration, whatever. So now if I want to do, create an image for a, sorry, I can't see anything because you're there. Yeah, for a lesson on plate tectonics that focuses on on Pangea. So we can do that. We can do as a photo or illustration. You can do typography. We're going to just go generate. And what it's going to do is if you've used, ChatGPT and others are going to be they're going to be next word predictors. Something like this is going to be a next pixel predictor. So you see how it's blurry? What it has is it actually is that it's building this image pixel by pixel. And because Pangea is pretty common, we should be able to see something that like is either wildly wrong, like this is kind of funny, or in these cases, maybe not perfect, but how amazing is it to potentially put in a fake Pangea and then have your students have to identify that it's not real?
That's cool.
And so, like, there's some ways to really start to use this where even though they're not right, do your students pick it up? Do they see the misconception? Can you ask them to look at this image and identify what's wrong, or how to now they're going to take this and do their own version of this? But you see how you can start to think about these technologies and like the ways in which you can pull them together. So we have Canva Magic. You've got all of these amazing things. Exactly, Lauren, like the idea of like responsible AI, it's going to mess up. Lean into the mess up and have your kids become critical users of this. And so while there are so many great opportunities to start thinking about this, and like we've had so many great tools being shared, we wanted to give you guys a base of understanding of how to get going. And there was a really good comment in the piece around compliance. And so, the idea Natalini was talking about how these tools aren't potentially compliant with ADA. So doing that extra work, especially when you think about this presentations and ensuring that you have alt text, you have, different types of contrast that's important, or even that we talked about differentiation. What you can also do is you can also have some of these pieces go to text to image or image to text, so that students that are going to have special needs get a little bit more support. So what I would say is, like, it's really up to you. And Mariana also has a question. So you could do 6th grade plate tectonics, but you could also do like advanced, like college level biology course. What we would suggest is, Mariana, you probably need to bring the content a bit more, but the imagery, the use of different tools, like the ability to create something bespoke, is actually really up to, that's where you can start to use that technology. But as we go back to that original comment, that first slide is that you're the expert, right? So you bring your special sauce, whether that's the knowledge, the PCK, pedagogical content knowledge, all of those things, and then you bring that in, and then you use the tools around that to augment and enhance. I know that you wanted to show one more tool, which is Brisk, which is a freemium tool. So we've had Brisk on a webinar before around formative assessment. So this is also a really great opportunity to look at something that is going to be free-ish.
All right, let me get that going. Someone did ask about accessibility, and there is, now this is, I think it's developing. So I'm not saying that it's perfect, but there is a check design accessibility feature that Canva has. But let's really quick talk about Brisk. It does make me want to drink some tea. Okay. So Brisk, now let's see, I've moved, okay, Brisk education. Brisk teaching. Okay, so Brisk is a Chrome browser extension. All right. And then Brisk hovers over your contact like a jealous boyfriend, and it waits for you to use it. Okay, well, it's a happy person, Brisk is. So I'm gonna go to my Google Slides, and I'm gonna go to a blank presentation. And you can see, well, I don't know how to zoom in my screen, but in the
Okay,
bottom
you
corner,
can actually see it pretty well.
okay,
That's okay.
in the bottom corner of my screen, you'll see a little Brisk icon. And so I'm going to click that and it's going to bring up this menu. And this menu has a create. And you can see that there is a bunch of things to create. Think Diffit, think Magic School. It's all kind of in the same thing. The only thing that this does is it does have a add slides. So was that what grade? Well, 1 through 12. We'll just do 12th and we'll do was that advanced biology? Should we do cell respiration? Uh, ah, oof, that makes me scared.
Oh, come on. I will say that as a former biology teacher, it's always so funny. I always use like mitosis as like my like it's like my go-to. So the fact that it's scary to you is quite funny.
I will tell you, as I'm doing this live demo, I asked it to tell me to create a whodunit mystery for sixth graders, and it created images and of a who stole the cookie kind of a thing, and then it had facts about each. It created a clue type game for me. So we're gonna do 12th grade 10 slides. Notice I can do it in any language I want. So there goes my time saving with Translate. And when I click brisket, now, brisket, that does sound delicious with some barbecue sauce. But when I click brisket, Brisk does that AI loading for me. It creates with one of the slides, and then it starts creating. What I've noticed in my Brisks are sometimes it does a really good job with, okay, if I knew anything about this thing, it does a really good job with explaining stuff. It does a pretty okay job with matching images to what
Yeah.
we're actually wanting.
Yeah, I would say that for everybody out there, like that's probably one of the biggest issues is like matching images. And these are going to be images that are not necessarily created. They're going to be like those that are
Yes,
searched for and included. So
right.
these are images that already exist. So I think that like that's something to consider. A caveat again, everybody, we talked about magic. This is very, very early stages.
Yes,
We have probably 6 months to a year before they really become significantly more usable. But what you can start to see is like you can start to put things together that this might have better content. And now I'm going to use Ideogram or Canva Magic to
right.
add the images. I'm going to use Perplexity to add some of the resources.
Yeah.
And you can still do those in much, much faster ways than you would do by opening a blank piece and then doing slide by slide.
Absolutely. One last selling point with this one. I can take the content I just had it make and I can make resources like a vocab list, or I can make a quiz for it. We're not going to go there because that's not really our jam today. But so yeah. My hat's off to Brisk. So
Awesome. And also I'll just do a shout out. We have like let's pull up the last piece. Which is we have some other resources. And so here we go. So we're gonna just show our last slide. And also, guys, I just got a message from like down like about this could have been like a 2 hour webinar. So we know it's short, but like we wanted to give you guys the like kind of the overview, the getting started. You got to see kind of these tools. But there are also awesome ones, and you saw this in the chat. So Gamma is another great tool that allows you to create about 20 presentations. It is not education specific, but it is really, really great to get you started. We know that there are a lot of educators, probably people that built Gamma were like so surprised, like, why do we have so many education presentations? But because educators really need them. We've got Curapod, our friends in the Netherlands that you can create 5 lessons at a time. They also include interactive kind of PowerPoints and slides. Almanac is really about to relaunch their slide generation tool that'll allow you to differentiate within the actual, like you'll actually be able to differentiate existing slides as well as add Venn diagrams, timelines, some of the stuff that like really will like enhance it. And so they're going to be launching that in a couple of weeks as well, which is really exciting, and love our female founders. So we see like Lauren's been so great. Lauren, you have been so good. We love our community. So thank you for sharing. What I would say though, there were some questions that I think that what kind of will do is like, is that right now, these technologies do not have any pedagogical knowledge. And so even Canva Magic or Brisk or others don't necessarily have any pedagogical knowledge. Brisk and others are trying to build that into the systems by the way that they give the system their internal prompts. But so things like it might end up being very long or very text heavy, or
Mhm.
it could have the structure that isn't pedagogically sound. So what we want to say is that we see questions about, is it related to the UK curriculum and other things, is that right now you're almost better off identifying the content that you either love, that you already have, that works really, really well, and using these tools to upgrade them, to make them more punchy with rewrite, or make them have real world examples where I have this great content, right? And then what I can do now is say, now make this about soccer, or now make this about, Fortnite, or make this about recycled fashion or whatever. And so that you could see where you can start to take that good content and now start to really enhance it. So that's one way. The other way is like, again, you're the expert. So if you are, the UK curriculum, you can use that also. You put that into a prompt, let's say on Claude or Copilot or ChatGPT, and have that actually give you now slide content, and you can ask it to identify which part of the standards it's going to relate to. So you can double check that work, because we always want to double check. But I think that that's really where we want to go, though, is that these tools are going to, like, there's no magic bullet right now. There's not, including these big models like ChatGPT. Instead, what we have is this really, really great opportunity to start trying, practicing, and playing, and making sure that this extends and enhances your ability to connect with kids, have them learn, and to create things that are going to, like, let's say you add a completely ridiculous image and then the kids have to recognize, wait a second, something is wrong here. We just learned about plate tectonics. That is definitely not Pangea. Like, that is to be something that is going to be an amazing piece. So what I want to say is, if we'll take like one question or two. If you have any questions, you can put it into the chat. But those of you that have to run, we totally understand. Maybe just go to the next slide. We have so many cool things like that we've done. So we've got our prompt library that we updated yesterday, everybody. Welcome. Thank you, Kelly, and our team. I spent Sunday updating our prompt library. We still have our free course. Our newsletter is coming out. We're going to have our first virtual summit, which Kevin definitely is going to have to come and hang out in on April 27th, which we'll be sharing this week. But we love you being here. We love everything. And then I just want to say, can everyone give like Kevin your joy and your thanks, because it is hard to get up here in front of a group of 160 people, and you did a beautiful job, and we're just so excited to have a practitioner who cares so much about this be able to share your knowledge. So thank you so much, Kevin, and thank you everyone for joining.